My husband, the heir to a wealthy family, has fallen in love with his disaster-averting girl. In order to marry her, he coerced me with our newly born daughter, forcing me to obediently divorce and give up my share of the family property. When I refused, he had someone tamper with my car, causing my tragic death. In this new life, I, along with my parents, took the disaster-averting girl away from his family before they could. She was just a 4-year-old girl, skinny but with clear eyes. The first time she saw me, she softly called me sister. It suddenly reminded me of my own child who had lost her mother. My due date suddenly came earlier. I was rushed to the hospital at midnight and gave birth to my daughter with Connor at 4:30 in the morning. However, Connor just took a glance, left us in fearfully. My heart, which had been filled with joy, was suddenly poured with a basin of cold water. My daughter was very well behaved, except for crying twice when she was just born. She had been sleeping quietly in the incubator. It seemed that she had sensed her father's coldness towards her since birth. Looking at her, I remembered Connor's past tenderness. Our two families arranged a marriage. Connor was the husband I had been betrothed to since I was a child. He was weak and often ill, gentle and quiet. Even the doctor said he might not live past the age of 30. I liked him and didn't mind this at all. Connor also didn't let down my lad, and had always taken good care of me. As he grew up, his health gradually improved, and our wedding went smoothly. However, it seemed that Connor didn't love me anymore. In the 3 years of our marriage, we had fewer and fewer topics to talk about, from sharing everything to being as cold as ice towards each other now, until I accidentally found out that there was another woman in his life. I was angry, sad, and even went so far as to catch him in the act without caring about my dignity. But Connor protected her very well. I could only watch helplessly as he fell in love with someone else and gradually erased his traces in my heart. The hospital was silent. Although the heating was on, I felt so cold that I was shivering. Since he left so straightforwardly, he must have gone to see that woman. Tears dropped onto the back of my hand. My daughter's small and innocent sleeping face tugged at my heart. I couldn't let my daughter live in a twisted family. It was time to get a divorce and set myself free. I took the baby back to the Autumn family, and didn't tell anyone from the Connor family. Rather, since they knew I had given birth to a daughter, no one from the Connor family had come to visit. I thought sarcastically. I remembered clearly the disgust on my in-laws' faces when they saw the baby. Didn't they say that this girl from the Autumn family is Connor's lucky star? Why did she give birth to a little girl? My mother-in-law was superstitious and had done many absurd things because of Connor's health. It was said that back then, they matched my and Connor's birth dates and found that we were a good match. So they were kind to me. It was even rumored in the circle that Connor had a playmate specifically to ward off disasters. Connor had never admitted these things. Now that we were going to get a divorce, it had nothing to do with me. A month after the baby was born, I sent Connor a WeChat message asking for a divorce. The cooperation between our two families was too deeply involved, and a divorce would seriously affect the Connor family. He didn't agree, but I insisted. Connor finally agreed to meet me. His handsome face was full of annoyance. "What on earth are you doing?" I said coldly. "Do you really expect me to serve your mistress after you cheated on me during our marriage?" Connor's face darkened. "Autumn, think it through. There are only you and your grandmother in the Autumn family now. Do you think you'll have a better life after the divorce than you do now?" My eyes turned red. The death of my parents was my greatest sorrow. I couldn't fulfill my filial duties during their lifetime. Connor clearly knew this was my sore spot. Yet he was so cold-blooded. Even if the property of the Autumn family is all squandered, it won't go to a scumbag like you who cheats and uses cold violence. The negotiation ended unpleasantly. I threatened him that if he didn't agree to the divorce, we would meet in court. Connor finally compromised. But I didn't expect that this would also push me to my death. On the day I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau, I first met an unexpected guest. She looked familiar to me. A few years younger than me. Pale and thin, with innocent eyes and delicate features. A woman's intuition told me that this person must have an extraordinary relationship with my husband. Connor. Her next words made me shudder. "Autumn family. You can't go to get a divorce. Connor plans to create a man-made accident to kill you when you're on your way there. Don't go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Sue him in court instead. I frowned. Although Connor and I no longer had feelings for each other. In modern society, it wasn't that easy to kill someone. I couldn't give up my plan for the day, just because of a stranger's words. The woman was almost in tears with anxiety. Just as I was getting impatient and about to shake her off, a car out of control came rushing towards us. The person in the driver's seat had a crazy look on his face and a cruel smile. It was Connor's younger brother. Yan. Watch out. After a scream, I felt my body become lighter. I was enveloped in a white light amidst intense pain. At that moment, my last thought was one of regret. If I had known that Connor really wanted to kill me, I should have broken his leg during the negotiation. I drifted in the void for I don't know how long. Suddenly, I heard the familiar and concerned voices of my parents in my ears. When I woke up from the chaos, I saw the faces of my parents who finally relaxed after being anxious. Dad. Mom. I was in a daze. The structure of this room was like my childhood cabin. The familiar dressing mirror also showed my current appearance. My face was still childish and delicate, pale with an abnormal flesh. This was me at the age of 10, 15 years ago. I lay in the familiar room in a daze, panicking about everything that had happened to me. The surrounding environment and my living parents were all reminding me that I had been reborn. The fantastical experiences in novels had happened to me. In addition, there was an extra memory in my mind that didn't belong to me. I saw the love-hate relationship between Connor and a woman after he distanced himself from me. That woman was the one who had warned me that Connor was going to take risks. Her name was Anne. At the age of 4, she was taken from the countryside by the Connor family to be Connor's disaster-averting girl. Connor's congenital weakness had always been Katish's worry. She not only found me, who was supposed to be lucky for her husband, for Connor, but also found a girl with a strong birth date to ward off disasters for him. And was responsible for protecting Connor from all potential dangers. She had to taste the food first, be used as a test subject for the medicine, and even had the experience of being kidnapped in place of Connor several times. Years of abuse had made Zan extremely weak, but the Connor family was not grateful to her. Connor was ashamed of her. And Zan's status in the Connor family was even lower than that of a servant in ancient times. So when Connor and I were in love, he never told me about Zan's existence because he thought she wasn't worthy. But later, Connor was actually attracted by Zan's tenacity and kindness. He forced Anne and made her sleep with him before our marriage. I felt nauseous when I thought of this. How could such behavior be called love? Not only that, but Connor's younger brother and even his uncle were also infatuated with Sand. What others saw as being doted on and favored was just an inescapable prison for Zan. She felt guilty about getting involved with Connor and could only sneak out to send me a message when Connor wasn't around. Even more, she wanted to save me from death. If the protagonist of the story wasn't my ex-husband, I would have thought I was reading a sadomasochistic novel. Soreness and sympathy filled my heart. I thought of my daughter. I placed my hand on my empty belly. In that world, she had become an orphan because of my death. I couldn't imagine how she would survive in the hands of a father like Connor. The name I had thought of for her would never have the chance to be used. I wiped away my tears. My child's body made it impossible for me to control my emotions. The time of my rebirth was very coincidental. I had returned to the time when I accidentally fell into the water as a child. At the age of 10, the Autumn family and the Connor family first met. I accidentally fell into the water and was saved by Connor. He was ill for a long time because of this. And I also developed a crush on him because of this accident. Now that I thought about it, I'm afraid it was all planned by the Connor family long ago. I sneered. But at the same time, Zan hadn't been taken to the Connor family at this time either. A month later, at the charity donation event of our two families, my father brought back a 4-year-old girl from the countryside. She was thin and pale, nervously clutching her tattered top. Zan. In this life, she wouldn't go to the Connor family anymore. When I saw Zan again, to be honest, I was shocked. In that memory, although Zan was thin, the Connor family still barely gave her some dignity on the surface. Later, when Connor fell in love with her. He gave her brand name luxury goods without hesitation. But the 4-year-old girl in front of me was thin and short. To put it bluntly, she was even worse off than my daughter in my previous life, who was less than 3 months old. My parents looked at her with pity and compassion in their eyes. This child has been relying on the charity of others. She has no parents. And no one in her village is willing to adopt her. Through my memory, I knew that Zen had always had a hard life. But I didn't expect that she had been so miserable from the very beginning. I suddenly understood. There is a saying that a person with a strong birth date is destined to be alone. The Connor family chose Anne, I'm afraid, mainly because she was alone and had never had a good life. In this charity event, the Connor family was supposed to take Zen away. But I waited for the right moment and asked my parents to choose to sponsor Zen first. I took a deep breath and suppressed my anger. The Connor family simply regarded Anne as a tool. In my previous life, they always seemed friendly and kind on the outside. If I hadn't discovered Connor's true nature after marriage, how long would I have been deceived by them? I took the initiative to walk up to Zan and held her hand. She looked at me timidly with her eyes. Sister. Hello. A 4-year-old child should be in kindergarten. But Zan stuttered when she spoke. No one had taught her how to grow up. My eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Would my child, who had lost her mother at birth, be the same as her? My parents were a bit flustered when they saw my tearful eyes. Ki. What's wrong? Don't cry. Is it that the cold from falling into the water the other day still hasn't healed? Look. The little sister is still looking at you. Kiki is the bravest. Isn't she? I hugged Zen in my arms despite her tattered clothes and said pitifully to my parents. I read in a book that children without parents are so pitiful. My mother was naturally kind-hearted. When she heard my sobbing voice, her eyes also became moist. My father stroked my head. Kiki has grown up. Dad is very proud of you. Now that the little sister has our sponsorship, she won't be alone anymore. Zen is now living in the Autumn family. Considering Zan's special situation, the public welfare institution has granted us special permission to temporarily take her in. I heaved a big sigh of relief at this. My parents currently have no intention of adoption. And this is the best solution for now. I directly asked Anne to move into my room. My mother was a bit surprised when she found out. But she was more delighted. When I was a child, I was a bit of a little bully. That's why Connor was able to win my favor later. He was gentle and quiet, which complimented me perfectly. It's a pity that it was all an act by Connor. Now that I can take the initiative to care about a strange little girl, my mother is naturally happy that I have grown up. Speaking of Connor, not long after I was reborn, my parents took me to the Connor family to visit him, who was still lying in the hospital bed. The 12-year-old Connor already had a glimpse of what he would look like in the future. And I felt a surge of hatred in my heart. Why didn't he just drown? In my previous life, in order to express gratitude to the Connor family, the Autumn family transferred many benefits of business cooperation. Later, my father also bore half of Connor's medical expenses. We showed them the utmost kindness and righteousness. But what we got in return was their greed. It's best to cut off the connection with the Connor family from the root now. It can be considered that I have morals if I don't take advantage of their vulnerability to avenge what they did to me in my last life. Unfortunately, having fulfilled me, there are always people who can't read the situation. Zen has no foundation in enlightenment at all. So I volunteered to take on her enlightenment learning. Before my daughter was born in my previous life, I had actively prepared things related to early childhood education. My expression darkened, and a sour pain welled up in my heart again. Zen sat beside me, blinking her eyes. After being raised in the Autumn family for a few days, Zen looks much cuter. Like an innocent little deer. If my daughter were still alive, she would surely be this cute too. Before I could say anything, a servant knocked on the door and said that my mother wanted me to go downstairs. What's the matter? I asked. People from the Connor family came earlier. After the servant finished speaking, my face looked as ugly as if it had been smeared with garbage. I casually responded and then turned to Zand and said, Sister has to entertain the guests. Zand. Wait here. Okay? Zand nodded obediently. when I went downstairs. Only my mother was entertaining the people from the Connor family. At a glance, I saw Connor, who had just recovered from a serious illness and looked pale. My mood became even worse. But unfortunately, not everyone could notice it. Autumn. You're even more beautiful after a few days. My mother couldn't help but look sideways when she saw the affection on Katish's face. How could she not be affectionate? I sneered in my heart. There's me. And there's And. We are both tools that she sought everywhere through fortune and telling to ensure her precious son's long life. Hello. Auntie. My attitude was very cold. The smile on Katish's face became a bit awkward. Hello. Autumn. I'm Connor. We've met before. How are you feeling now? It was Connor who spoke. He took the initiative to smooth things over. He was neither overly attentive nor arrogant. And he didn't even mention that he jumped into the water to save someone. It seemed that he was genuinely worried about a girl. The mother first puts on an obsequious appearance to boost the other's ego. And then the son pretends to be a saint to win favor. For a 10-year-old child who is still in the stage of being a middle schooler with a sense of self-importance, it's simply a perfect trap. In my previous life, I was gradually trapped in this way and gave my heart to Connor. I'm fine. You shouldn't have jumped down that day. I'm in better health than you. And I can swim. Moreover, the pool is only 1 meter deep, so there wouldn't be any serious problem at all. I unceremoniously ignored their flattery under the stiff gazes of the mother and son of the Connor family. Connor was stunned. He was used to standing on the moral high ground and listening to others' praise. He had never encountered such a direct response like mine. My mother was a bit embarrassed. She just thought that my unforgiving temper had flared up again. I continued to speak plausibly, fully demonstrating the character of a naughty and unreasonable brat. I heard that you're not in good health, right? Before you jumped down, you should have thought about your uncle and aunt. What if we all had leg cramps at that time? That would have been too dangerous. But don't be too sad. My dad said he will help you find a good hospital for a checkup. Boys are just too careless and don't care about their own safety at all. Seeing that Katish's smile was almost twisted, my mother finally interrupted me. QIU. Connor cares about you too. It's very impolite to talk to the guests like this. I pouted, looking even more aggrieved than Connor. What I said is all true. Mom. I was just accidentally knocked down and fell in. I just splashed around a bit and it was okay. Okay. Autumn's mom. Don't scold the child either. I think what Autumn said makes a lot of sense. She has such a strong sense of safety at such a young age. You and Autumn's dad have taught her well. Katisha interrupted me loudly. With an embarrassed expression, she pulled Connor, who looked on the verge of tears, and was about to take her leave. They walked in a hurry, as if someone was chasing them. But I didn't miss the flash of resentment in her eyes when she looked at me. After seeing off the mother and son of the Connor family, I curled up on the sofa like a quail. Mom knows that QIU is not a child who causes trouble for no reason. Can you tell Mom why you said those things to Connor's mom and Connor? My mother asked me patiently. She has a very gentle personality and doesn't like conflicts. She also unknowingly encouraged my assertiveness when I was a child. Except for my dad. No one could really control me. Hearing my mother's soft voice again, I was so touched that I wanted to cry. I lowered my head and sniffed. When we went to their house to see Connor, I heard Connor's mom scold me. She said I didn't know my limits and didn't even find a good place to fall, making her son stay unconscious for so long. My mother's face changed, and she looked shocked and incredulous. Did you really hear that? I met my mother's anxious gaze, pinched my thigh hard with my fingers, and forced out a trace of tears. Yeah. Of course it was fake. But do I need to speak well of the Connor family? My mother's face changed constantly, and finally settled on worry and guilt. She stroked my head. Don't go looking for the people from the Connor family when Mom and Dad aren't around in the future. I nodded without hesitation. Then, let out a low sigh. My eyes shifted and I saw Zand, who was hiding half of her body on the stairs. Zand. Come here. Zand was like an obedient little dog. She ran down powdering and bowed shyly in front of my mother. There's no sound downstairs. So I came to see sister. She was holding a calligraphy practice book and looking at me expectantly. Sister. In addition to the pleasure of retorting, I also felt a sense of relief. The Connor family will soon better find a girl to ward off disasters for Connor. But neither I nor Zan will have any involvement with them in the future. My mother smiled and beckoned to Zan. What did Zan write? Can Auntie take a look? Zan looked at me and then at my mother. She shyly handed the calligraphy practice book to her. My mother didn't say anything for a long time after opening the book, and her eyes suddenly softened. I was curious. But she had already closed the book. QIU. Do you want a younger sister? A younger sister? I looked at Zan, who was innocent but gradually becoming more cheerful. The changes in this life seemed to have exceeded my expectations. Maybe Zan can really call me sister now. 10 years later. In the 10th year since I was reborn. Not only have I not formed a bond with that ungrateful Connor, but also, under my deliberate guidance, the relationship between the two families has become distant. After careful consideration, my parents officially adopted Zan when she was 6 years old. Now she is no longer just Zan, but Zan, my 14-year-old sister. And the best news for me is that because of his poor health, Connor didn't get into university and has never come out to annoy me. This means that the Connor family has never found someone to ward off disasters for him. Is there anything more satisfying than seeing one's enemy not doing well? After working in the workplace and being worn down by family life, I realized that I missed the studies and grades that used to give me headaches and pain. My roommate complained that I was standing and talking without experiencing the hardship, and of course I would be all smiles since I had good grades. My response was to stuff a mouthful of tiramisu into her mouth. After the final exams, I didn't hesitate to buy a plane ticket and go home. The university vacation starts early, especially in our school. A few weeks ago, I made an appointment with my mother to pick Zan up from her school together. Zan was happy about it for a long time and kept asking me on QQ when I would be back every day. But she hasn't sent any messages in the last few days. I thought it was because the study in the 3rd year of junior high school was more pressing. So I didn't take it to heart and planned to go back directly to give her a surprise. But I didn't expect to see a scene that made me furious. When I arrived at the middle school where Zan studies, it was a little past 4 in the afternoon. At this time, most of the students in the 3rd year of junior high school are having self-study to prepare for the final exams. She is a good girl and won't play with her phone in class. So I greeted the doorman and managed to get in to wait for her. I waited until the classes were dismissed one after another. And then I noticed something was wrong. Zan has been coming home from school on time recently. I was standing under the building of the junior high school department, so why haven't I seen her yet? After waiting for about half an hour, I simply walked into the teaching building. The empty building was dark without the lights on. And it was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Zan's homeroom teacher, Winnie, is a young girl. After knowing that I'm related to Zan, she immediately accompanied me to look for her. Zan has always been very obedient at school. And in the 3rd year of junior high school, there are a lot of self-study classes for the final exams. The children in our class are quite obedient. And I don't restrain them too much. They can leave when it's time. Winnie explained like this. But I didn't have the mood to listen. My sister's phone has been silent, and no one answered when I called. Is there any place we haven't searched yet? Winnie immediately said, the rooftop. But there are piles of sundries in front of the door from the top floor to the rooftop. Basically, no students will go there. I asked her to show me the way. It's not worth going for students. But for bullies, it's simply an excellent place to do evil. I don't want to believe that's and will be bullied. There's no sign of it at all. But with the two precedents of the Connor family and Connor, I choose to trust my intuition. Rushing to the entrance of the rooftop, Winnie's face was serious. The piles of sundries had been moved, and the door on the top floor was slightly ajar. I kicked it hard, and the iron door crashed open. A group of boys surrounding a girl were really startled. I saw the blood on Zan's lips and rushed up to slap the leading boy. The boy was stunned by my slap and stumbled, hitting the edge of the rooftop. He covered his swollen back of the head and flew into a rage. Fuck. Are you crazy? How dare you hit me? After cursing, He saw what I looked like. And the swear words in his mouth were stuck in his throat like a duck with its neck choked. And he couldn't utter a single word. I held Zen in my arms. Her body was shivering, which further ignited my anger. Not only will I hit you today, but I'll also send you to jail. Yan, who gave you the guts to bully my sister? 77. If Connor was a self-serving hypocrite, Yan was a complete psychopath. The memories of my rebirth told me that when Zand was in the Connor family, Yan had blatantly bullied her. The most serious incident was when Yan broke the Guanyin statue that was used to pray for Connor's well-being. Zand was forced to take the blame and was beaten bloody by Kadisha, almost losing her life. Ridiculously, after this incident, Yan actually developed feelings for Zand. Later, Zand was taken advantage of by Connor. He didn't dare to say anything about his brother, but instead tortured Zand in private. Thinking of this and looking at Yan's guilty yet arrogant face, the hatred I had for the Connor family, which had faded a bit, doubled again. This guy was the one who hit me to death in my previous life. With new and old grudges combined, I directly dialed 110 to call the police. Yan tried to act calm and be stubborn. I was just playing with her. You women are so petty. But the panic in his expression couldn't be faked. I softly soothed and then handed her over to the head teacher. I flexed my wrists and walked step by step towards those delinquent teenagers with colorful hairstyles. Don't think that just because you run away now, I won't recognize you scumbags. If you don't want to go to jail with Yan, stay away. After all, I was an adult in my 20s and had inherited my father's tall stature. Those students who were so thin that they couldn't even carry a few pounds of meat stepped back with pale faces, leaving only Yan, who was on the verge of crying. The police are coming. Autumn, what do you want to do? I glanced sideways at the head teacher, who was infuriately comforting and in a low voice, and then smiled sincerely at Yan. Hitting people is quite fun. I want to try it too. When the police and the parents of both parties arrived, Yan was already swollen like a pig's head. The police looked at and who was still silent, then at the howling Yan and a group of delinquent students with pale faces. Miss Autumn, was it you who called the police? Yes, hadn't fulfilled my assertion. It was me. I raised my hand voluntarily and stared at Kadisha, whose face was not looking good, and said word by word. I came to the school and saw my sister and the neighbor's child being bullied by their classmates. It's really heartbreaking. My sister's head teacher can testify to this. Those delinquent teenagers were all followers of Yan. They couldn't afford to offend me or the Connor family, so they had to swallow this bitter pill. With mournful faces, they were taken away one by Winnie. Campus bullying cases are generally mainly mediated, which is a bit frustrating. But at least I gave Yan a good beating, which can be considered as avenging Zem. My father nodded coldly at Kadisha, who was smiling obsequiously. As a greeting. He wasn't a fool. If it was really just those little boys bullying to people, according to my personality, I would definitely send them to a juvenile detention center. So there must be something wrong with Yan. Kadisha could only smile obsequiously. The Connor family couldn't catch up with the Autumn family in the first place. And without my connection in the previous life, it was gradually declining. When my father took me and on the way, I heard the clear sound of a slap and Kadisha's cursing. Your brother is in poor health. And you still cause trouble for me. Yan, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. Do you want to die? I should have thrown you away in the first place to save all the trouble. You're not even half as good as your brother. Listening to the screams that were getting farther away, I curled the corners of my mouth mockingly. On the way home, Zen curled up in my arms and didn't say a word. My father and I exchanged a look and decided not to stimulate her for the time being. How is Mom recently? My mother's health wasn't good. She hadn't fully recovered since giving birth to me. So I was the only child in our family. In my previous life, it was also because she was too weak. And later, when the cause of her illness was found out, it was already the late stage of cancer. But in this life, I paid attention to my mother's health in advance. Once there was any sign of something wrong, I took her for a medical examination. And the results scared our family. It was the early stage of uterine cancer. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled It was discovered early and treated in a timely manner. She couldn't come to the school with me to season today because she had just finished the operation. The recovery is going well. The doctor said your mother can be discharged from the hospital after 2 weeks of observation. I stroked Zan's hair. We owe it all to Zan. If she hadn't told me that Mom often had abdominal pain before, I wouldn't have noticed this. My father understood my meaning. Mom, Dad, and I all want to thank you. Zan. Adopting you 8 years ago was the best decision we ever made. Zan trembled slightly. And then I felt a slight wetness on my shoulder. I'm not a child that nobody wants. Sister. Her voice was so soft that only I could hear it. I squeezed her hand tightly. What other tricks could there be in campus bullying? It was just that they saw that the bullied were introverted and used the pain in their hearts to attack and have fun. Coincidentally, Yan knew something about my family. He didn't dare to do anything to me. So he went after Zand, the adopted daughter. It was as disgusting as in the previous life. Zand took 3 days off. And those who had bullied her following Yan were all given demerits one by one. I checked her wounds. Yan still had scruples about the Autumn family. And most of Zan's injuries were bruises and abrasions. But I wasn't satisfied. Especially, hadn't until felt my essentially. There was an open wound on her cheek. Even if it was treated in time, it would leave a scar for a while. Zan didn't seem to care. It's just a minor injury. Sister, don't be angry anymore. I carefully disinfected it for her. It's not minor at all. She fell silent, lowering her head, and I didn't know what she was thinking. I sighed in my heart. Zand. No matter what Yan said to you, don't believe it. He doesn't know you at all, nor does he know us. You did nothing wrong. It's those who want to hurt you that are at fault. My father's dissatisfaction with Yan extended to the cooperation between the two families. No one could tolerate their daughter being bullied by the child of a business partner. Early the next morning, Connor dragged Yan to the Autumn family to apologize. This was also the first time I had a face-to-face conversation with him since I was reborn 10 years ago. The grown-up Connor was so familiar that it made me feel uneasy. Except that he was even thinner and paler. His facial features were exactly the same as those of the scumbag who had been my childhood sweetheart for more than 10 years. My husband for 3 years. And then tried to murder me in my previous life. The resentment that had faded away with the happy life after my rebirth resurfaced. Connor was very calm. A faint smile appeared on his pale and handsome face. A smile with a bit of the broken charm that many young girls nowadays liked. Autumn. It's not easy to have the time to talk. You don't have to hate me so much. Do you? You just need to take care of that psychopath Yan. I have nothing to talk about with the brother of a slut. I didn't give Connor a chance to play the emotional card. Yan on the side wanted to jump up again when he heard my words. Autumn. You fucking. I looked at him coldly. Think carefully before you speak. Yan. You're on my turf now. What? You have such a big problem with my family. Do you want to ruin the business cooperation? Under my threat. He reluctantly held back the swear words in his mouth. Connor looked at him coldly. Get out. Brother. Don't make me say it again. Yan's originally aggressive expression suddenly dimmed. Looking very much like an unwilling and venomous snake. In the living room. Only Connor and I were left. He smiled at me as if nothing had happened and said, Yan was disrespectful and hurt Zand. It's a problem of our Connor family. I brought him here today to apologize. Any dissatisfaction you have is something we deserve. But Yan is still just a child. If you're really angry, just punish me. I was amazed at his tea-like words. If something really happened to Connor, a sickly person, who would be in the wrong? I squinted at him. So you came here today just to apologize? Not for anything else? Connor's eyes were clear. Just to apologize. Autumn. I know you don't like me very much. But my mother has always regarded you as her own daughter. And I also consider you as my family. I laughed. Connor. Your parents must be really desperate if they think they can regain the cooperation with the Autumn family by persuading a young girl? Do you think my father is an easy person to deceive? Have you read too many novels? Connor's smile froze on his face. I gave him a mocking look. Your family can't keep up with the development of the Autumn family. Instead of thinking about how to innovate in strength, you want to take shortcuts. No wonder you're getting worse and worse now. Connor stopped smiling completely and looked at me expressionlessly. Autumn. I saved you when we were young. Do you really have to be so mean? I shrugged. It's very necessary. You don't think I don't know the real purpose of you risking your life to save me? Do you? Connor. Are you really unwilling that you couldn't deceive a 10-year-old girl? Connor's fair face turned red with anger. And his fingers were trembling. I gave him a look of disgust and directly asked him to leave. The reason why I didn't send your brother to the juvenile detention center is that he will suffer more under your mother's hands. Don't push your luck. Connor family. Connor's face was as venomous as Jan's, who had just been driven out. He looked at me for a long time and showed a very malicious smile. Autumn is indeed the smartest girl I've ever met. But not everyone is as smart as you. My eyelids twitched. But Connor had already left. I looked at his thin back and had an intuition that something was wrong. But I didn't know where the problem would lie. In the following few days, Zen returned to school and safely got through the final exams. I had been on guard against what Connor might do. He could have made Yan run me over to death, so it's hard to say that he wouldn't come up with some other underhanded tricks. This situation continued until I attended Zan's parents' meeting on her behalf. Zan's homeroom teacher privately approached me. Zen is a good kid, but since the beginning of this semester, she has been a bit absent-minded and rarely talks to others. Also, the bullying problem only emerged this semester. I thought about having a chat with her, but she didn't show any reaction. Sister Zan, if possible, I hope you can have a good talk with her. Winnie's words woke me up. When we adopted Zan, she was only 6 years old and had already lived in the Autumn family for 2 years. Later, she never felt inferior because of her status as an adopted daughter. Although I guessed that Yan must have said something about her identity. Now that I think about it, there are indeed problems. After I went to college, I basically didn't go home except during holidays. My mother's illness also took up most of my father's attention. In the past 2 years, I didn't even notice that Zen had become more and more docile and silent. Thinking of Connor's malicious words before, my heart tightened. I don't want to be overly suspicious, but in my previous life, both I and Zan were people bound by Connor. If Connor really wants to do something, Zan is the only breakthrough. I immediately rushed back home. Zan was playing with her phone in her room. She looked a bit puzzled when she saw me panting. Sister, what's wrong? I pursed my lips and sat down on the edge of her bed. Zan, how about we go on a trip together during the holiday? Just the two of us. Without Mom and Dad. Her eyes lit up, and she asked cautiously. But what about Mom's illness? I winked at her and said teasingly. Our dad is a complete romantic. He would be more than happy without the two of us little ones disturbing him. Zen laughed softly. Then I'll pack my things right away. Looking at Zan's excited appearance, I felt a little relieved. Maybe I was overthinking. Connor is just a sickly person now and can't do anything. Without the girl to ward off disasters and without me. The lucky charm for her husband, who was taken advantage of. With Katish's character of loving him to death, where can she find a woman for him to abuse? Zen watched her sister walk out of the room. She looked down at the screen, and a message came from the netizen on the other end of the phone. What's wrong? Is your sister here again? She hesitated for a moment and typed. Yeah. She invited me to go on a trip together. I think your previous judgment about my sister should be wrong. She has always been very kind to me. The other side showed typing. It's so nice to see that your family is harmonious and not as excessive as my family. Zan smiled happily. Meeting the people of the Autumn family and her sister was her greatest luck. You still have me. We are friends. I believe that one day your family won't be a burden to you either. An emoji of love you was sent in the chat interface. Then when will we, good friends, meet in person? I'm going back to the hospital to stay next week. And you're going out on a trip with your sister. Sigh. I'm all alone. Wayuushuzen paused. This netizen was someone she met online a year ago. She was funny and humorous. Although she wasn't in good health, she was full of enthusiasm for life and was also very concerned about Zan's family life. Moreover, She herself was in this city. And the hospital where she was hospitalized happened to be the same one where her mother was. Should she just meet her? Zan sent 2 words. Sure, I always keep my word. Since I said I would take Zan out to play, I started thinking about the best place. A few days later, Zan greeted me and was about to go out. I asked one more question. What are you going out for? She held up the chat interface on her phone. Meeting in Edison. I couldn't help laughing and reminded her. Be careful when meeting in Edison so casually. They might trick you and take your kidneys. Zan ran over and hugged my arm. It's not like that. Sister. She's going to the central hospital to see a doctor today. And I can also drop by to see Mom. I pinched her face and took out a box from my pocket. If you're going out, you might as well dress up beautifully. Mom will be happy to see you like that. Inside the box was a necklace I picked for her. The little girl has been obsessed with cultivation novels recently. I customized a pure silver bamboo leaf necklace for her as a gift a long time ago. The handcrafted leaves are as wide as a thumb, shaved into a thin piece. Light and elegant. Zan loved it so much that she happily put on the necklace and set off. Goodbye, sister. I'll be back before 5 o'clock. Go and have fun. I waved to her, feeling as if I had raised a daughter. This thought made me laugh. In this life, there is only a 6-year age gap between me and Zan, but the memories of my previous life make me a woman in her 30s. I rarely think about that daughter who I never got to see. Occasionally, I can see in my dreams that my child grows from a small baby in a swaddle to a graceful young girl. I want to reach out and hold her. But all that's left for me is the disappointment and tears after waking up. For Zan, I can't help but transfer my feelings for my daughter to her. This can also be a small consolation for my child. I continued to plan the winter vacation travel itinerary. Time passed quickly. After the sun gradually set, I still didn't see Zan come back. The message she sent back only said that her friend suddenly had a medical emergency, and she wanted to stay with her for a while. I looked at that message and called my dad. Dad, are you at the hospital? My dad, yes. What's the matter? Zan's friend is also in the inpatient department. About half an hour ago. Did you see her? No. Today. Only your mother's ward in the inpatient department has an empty bed. And no one has come. My heart skipped a beat. And my phone almost dropped to the ground. At this moment, a number suddenly sent me a MMS. I was a bit slow to react. What era is it now and there's still MMS? But the next second, my fingers turned pale. It was Anne. Her hair was messy. There was blood at the corner of her mouth, and she was lying drowsily on the cement floor. At the same time, a sentence was sent. Autumn. I told you. Not everyone is as smart as you. Connor kidnapped Zan. I felt the same coldness as when I was about to die in my previous life. How did he get involved with Zan? When did he get Zan's information? I instinctively wanted to call the police. But a message continued to be sent on the screen. Don't even think about calling the police. This number can't be traced. If you dare to track me, I don't mind giving you some gifts on your sister. I gritted my teeth, almost consumed by anger. Connor. Get to the point. What do you want? The phone rang. I answered it. And Connor's disgusting laughter made me feel nauseous. Autumn. We are husband and wife. What could I do to you? My face turned pale. Connor was also reborn. His affected voice continued. As soon as I woke up, I found myself chatting with Zan. Fortunately, heading fulfilledly. I knew her like the back of my hand in my previous life. So I recognized her. Guess what? She's no longer my little lucky star to ward off disasters. You intercepted her in advance and made me sick until now. What a good move. Autumn. I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. Did you get reborn just to talk nonsense to me? Connor. You swallowed the Autumn family's property in your previous life but still didn't live a long life. You're really a loser. Shut up. Connor flew into a rage. I loved her so much. I got Yan sent to prison and drove my uncle out of the Connor family for her. But she actually betrayed me. She took away my daughter. My heart was pounding. In my previous life, did Zan protect my daughter? Bitch. Bitch. Since she's no good. Then she should die. Zan too. And you too. Connor seemed to be stimulated by something. I heard crackling sounds on the other end of the phone. Worried that he would really hurt Zand. I hurriedly said. Your family is not as good as before. Connor. If you dare to touch Zan even a little bit. Do you think you can have a good ending? Connor's breathing was heavy and rapid. And he spat out a few words through gritted teeth. I don't care. I said calmly. Liar. After seeing Connor's true face, I knew he was a complete opportunist. He could kill me for the Autumn family's inheritance. How could he not care about his own wealth and glory? Let Zan go. She can't give you anything. But I can. No one spoke for a long time. I knew Connor was hesitating. As time passed bit by bit, I anxiously shed drops of sweat. Connor laughed again. Okay. Autumn. But my request is that you marry me again. I followed the address given by Connor and came all the way to an abandoned and separate courtyard in the suburbs. Connor sent another message. Throw away your phone and pull out the SIM card. Don't try any tricks. I can call to check. I pulled out the SIM card and threw it on the ground. Taking a deep breath, I walked into the yard. After passing through the peeling gate and a small garden, I saw Connor at the place where the beam had collapsed. And Zand, who had woken up and was struggling on the ground. Zan let out a despairing whimper when she saw me. Her eyes, glaring at Connor's back, seemed to be on fire. Autumn. I know you still care about me. Connor had changed terribly. In his previous life, at the age of 22, with careful care, he was tall, straight, and gentle. Now, Connor was emaciated and thin, like a pale evil spirit. He smiled at me. But his sallow complexion ruined and the elegance he was trying to create. I turned my eyes away in disgust. This stunk Connor's self-esteem. He laughed ferociously. Sleep with me once. And I'll let Zan go. I looked at him like he was crazy. Here? You don't think that just by sleeping with you, you can become the son-in-law of the Autumn family. Do you? Connor smiled triumphantly. Of course not. I'll make you pregnant with my child. Don't you miss her? Autumn? Our daughter. I felt as if a disgusting slug had crawled over my body. And my hair stood on end. Connor was crazy. His long-term illness had long distorted his mind. And the betrayal of Zand, in his previous life, was the final blow that broke his sanity. The more severe situation after his rebirth made him unable to accept it. Connor wanted to take risks. But he still remembered to seek benefits for himself. I lowered my head dejectedly. Let Zan leave first. Connor picked up and then stood up. She stumbled and bumped into me. Her mouth was gagged. And her eyes were full of regretful tears. I held her and gently said, "It's okay." She widened her eyes, walked away step by step, gave me a reluctant look, and then quickly ran out. Connor looked at me with a teasing smile. I've already tidied up the room. Autumn. You have no idea how much I've missed you. He walked towards me step by step with a dagger in his hand. His face flushed an abnormal red. I looked around. Connor. Aren't you afraid that I'll go back on my word and your Connor family will suffer if you're so presumptuous? He sneered. Do you think I'll give you that chance? The people of the Connor family are just stepping stones for me to pave the way. Wasn't there prosperity and wealth in the previous life all given by me? And that Yan. A dog that I can use for my own benefit at will. I suddenly laughed. Connor. Look behind you. Don't use such tricks. A sharp pain spread from his back to his whole body. Connor's eyes widened. I quickly stepped back and saw Yan with a crazy expression behind Connor. Be a dog? A stepping stone? Connor. I fucking endured you for a long time. Since the car accident. I've never let down my guard against the Connor family. The difficult life of the Connor family made me realize that the conflict between the two brothers in this life is bigger than I thought. Katisha only has Connor, her eldest son, in her eyes. Yan is just a contrast to Connor for her. Both of them inherited the madness of their biological mother. And they are more neurotic than each other. So before coming to find Connor, I deliberately let Yan know that the Autumn family and the Connor family were going to get married. Jealousy made Yan follow me all the way as I expected. And then I let him hear his own brother's belittling words. He liked to suppress my sister so much in the previous life. Now it's better to let him taste the feeling of being treated like trash in others' eyes. Connor fell down, twitching continuously. His clothes and the ground were stained red with blood. Inhuman wails came from his mouth. I felt a sense of pleasure. Jan was stunned. He looked at the bloody Swiss Army knife in his hand and his legs felt weak. Since he could be incited to kill me, it was the same for him to attack Connor when he was hot-blooded. I sneered. Jan's eyes changed from confusion and panic to bloodthirsty and cruel. He looked at me, and tight, and his grip on the knife. I smiled like a spectator who had feasted their eyes. Almost at the same time he was about to attack, messy footsteps rushed in from outside the door. A group of fully armed policemen rushed in. Jan completely slumped to the ground. There were his fingerprints on the knife. And the police also saw his attempt to attack me. He had no chance to argue anymore. Zen rushed over from behind the armed police and hugged me tightly, bursting into tears. Sister. I thought. She choked and could only hold me tighter. I also hugged her tightly and comforted her over and over again. It's okay. It's okay. Zen, this is my lucky star. I won't be in trouble. The necklace I gave her around her neck swayed. I looked at Connor, who was lying on the ground, unconscious, having faces, and showed a satisfied smile. My phone couldn't be used to locate and call the police. But that didn't mean I couldn't put a locator on Zand. Really have to thank you, Connor. If it weren't for your greed giving me a perfect opportunity, how could I have avenged myself? Jan was finally convicted of intentional injury and sentenced to 5 years. Thanks to his biased parents. Under Kadish's strong request, the sentence was increased to 10 years. 10 years. When he comes out, he will just be a useless person who can't keep up with the pace of society. Finally giving up hope in his parents, Jan ended up in prison just as I said. As for Connor, he was lucky. He actually wasn't stabbed to death, but he damaged the nerves in his spine and would have to spend the rest of his life paralyzed in bed, accompanied by his excrement. But what does that have to do with me? To take care of Zan's and my feelings. My father generously approved a generous travel fund for us. But the prerequisite was that we had to report to them at all times. When our trip stopped in Yunnan, my mother called and complained that Connor's mother was saying things like, "This shouldn't be the case," and, "Zen is clearly my family's disaster-averting girl, outside the villa every day. There seem to be too many reborn people in this world." I twitched the corners of my mouth and told my mother to just take it as a joke. In a few days, when she's not crazy anymore, she'll have to accept her fate and go take care of her paralyzed precious son. Zen was beside me, wearing a floral dress, and said softly, "Sister, I think what she said might be true." I looked at her, waiting for what she would say next. I had several dreams before. Just after I was kidnapped by Connor, I dreamed that you didn't adopt me and I became the plaything of Connor and Jan. Later, I dreamed that you died. I was very painful and didn't know who to be angry with. I asked softly. And then? Then I woke up and found that we were lying at home. I just had a nightmare. Zen smiled, like a sunflower that had absorbed enough sunlight. I also smiled and said, "Yeah. It was just a dream. Ours and was never anyone's disaster-averting girl."